All right, I've got the recording going, so hopefully everybody's good with that. I'm going to also start my presentation and then share my screen. If I can figure out how to do that. Bear with me, everyone. Perfect. So today's presentation is about financial wellness and borrowing wisely. So instead of talking about like what the FAFSA is, what kind of aid is available, hopefully we've already got that taken care of with a fall semester right around the corner. We're going to talk more about how can you plan to be financially secure or as financially secure as possible during your time in grad school. As Jennifer mentioned, my name is Audrey. I'm an advisor in the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office, and I use she, her pronouns. So the presentation goal is to help you understand tools and strategies to manage your finances while you're in school and improve your overall financial wellness, because it's a really important piece to being in graduate school. Why does it matter though? It reduces stress, which will improve your academic performance, which is the really, really big important piece for graduate school. It helps you avoid unnecessary debt, and it also helps you build lifelong money management skills and knowledge. So this is going to benefit you even after you graduate, even after your loans are paid off. We also want to have the knowledge to avoid some common pitfalls that a lot of students fall into. That's not tracking your spending, over borrowing, and ignoring your credit health. We like to say in a lot of things, hindsight is 2020. So let's think about your future now. We do want to do a quick financial aid recap just so that we're all kind of on the same page with that. So financial aid works in kind of five big steps. The student completes their FAFSA annually, usually in the October timeframe for the upcoming aid year. Aid year is fall, spring, summer. Then our office sends out an award offer. It's usually fall and spring together and then summer by itself. The student accepts any and all aid that they want to utilize. The student then completes any loan requirements that are outstanding. And then each semester, at the beginning of each semester, funds get sent to the bursar's office. They take those funds for the bill, and then they send a refund, usually via direct deposit for any overage. And that's each semester. So you'll have a disbursement in August, in January, in May timeframe for each semester. So some really important things that you should understand about your financial aid is your cost of attendance, which is going to basically tell you what financial aid does and does not cover. That includes direct expenses, those tuition and fees that are for CU specifically, as well as those indirect expenses, books and supplies, exams, travel, living allowance, all of that stuff. That is your total cost of attendance. You also want to be able to differentiate funding between your free aid or gift aid, which is grants and scholarships, your earned aid, which is work study, and your aid that you have to pay back, those darn loans that are super scary. And also just be familiar with the term disbursement. That's when our office sends the funds to the bursar's office. It's not when you get your refund, it's literally the moment the bursar's office gets access to those funds. There are some allowances in your cost of attendance. Those are recommended maximum amounts. We do encourage you to aim to spend less on those because the less you spend, the less you borrow, the less future debt you have in the future. That was redundant. Overspending risks can lead to no extra aid being available, your aid running out early, and then some stress and possibly credit card debt, which we really want to help you avoid. This is a lot of information, so bear with me. Keep any questions for the end and we'll go through them, I promise. Federal direct student loans are going to be your unsubsidized and your graduate plus. These are both eligible for deferment, forbearance, forgiveness and cancellation, and income-driven repayment options. They also have fixed interest rates, so your credit score, your income does not matter. Every student gets the same interest rate. That interest rate does change each academic year, so every July 1st. So when you graduate, you're going to have a lot of different loans with a lot of different interest rates. That's where consolidation comes in, where you can get one loan with one interest rate instead. It's a lot nicer than having 7 different ones. You also get a one-time 6-month grace period before repayment begins upon graduation or dropping below half time. These loans also require some things. So if you have not done them already, you will, for the unsubsidized and Graduate Plus, have to do online entrance counseling and a master promissory note or MPN. The master implies it's good for 10 years, so if you've done one in the last year, you should be set. Um, sorry, I'm not on time with my transitions here. The entrance counseling and the master promissory note are both basically the terms and conditions of the loan that you're borrowing. Graduate Plus loans also require a credit check. They're not looking for a minimum score or a score of any kind, really. They're just making sure that you have adverse-free credit history, that you haven't gone into default on any loans, haven't filed bankruptcy, stuff like that. You can also add an endorser if you are not approved for a Graduate Plus. That's basically adding dad or mom or grandpa or whomever to sign on to it as well. Their credit check will be done as well. And those are good for 180 days, so you'll have to continue to do that throughout your time here, but not every semester at least. This is some just a quick screenshot information about federal loans, the different interest rate for the current fiscal year. So through July 1st, or from July 1st through June 30th of 2026, the origination or processing fee, how much of that loan is taken out and given to the servicer to keep your loan going, basically, whether or not it's credit based, and then some annual and lifetime or aggregate limits. Those limits are changing with the bill that just recently passed, as is Graduate Plus. That information is still being deciphered and sent to us to send to you all. So we will send that information when we have it, but just keep an eye on studentaid.gov and it'll have hopefully most up-to-date information. The unsubsidized loan is the only one with limits. Like I said, those are changing. We're going to get those updated as soon as we can. Graduate Plus for those students who can continue to borrow, that it fills up to the cost of attendance. Because of those limits, they're usually not going to be enough. Another really important piece is how to keep your financial aid. You want to make sure that you're maintaining satisfactory academic progress standards. We have information about that on our website, so you can pop in and check that out. And if you plan on withdrawing or dropping from a class, if you can, talk to our office first, because we do have to do a federal calculation to determine how much aid you've earned, which could result in you returning all or some of it, which means that refund that you receive for living expenses. So we definitely want to make sure that you know what you're going to get into if you're looking at withdrawing or dropping. Obviously, things happen. You can't always, withdraw from courses and talk to us first, but if you have the opportunity, please do. Okay, so now the meat and potatoes of this presentation, the actual financial wellness. So we're going to talk about personal budgeting. You have a living allowance as part of your cost of attendance. It is about $2,800 a month. This can cover rent for a modest one-bedroom apartment plus utilities. That's definitely going to be your most expensive obligation. It also covers food, including dining out. So we're not just saying you have to cook at home for, your entire time in school. Covers car insurance and maintenance and fuel to get you places, personal hygiene and recreation, because we do want you to have fun outside of school if you can, renter's insurance, and basically any other personal financial obligations. You're probably going to end up using loans to pay for these living expenses just because grants don't really tend to cover enough for tuition and fees and living expenses. That said, you have direct control over the amount that you borrow. So you really want to take a look at your budget and minimize taking out loans because you're going to have to pay them back eventually. So how do you create a budget? Know that it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be ever changing. This is a live living document that changes along with your financial priorities. We have a student budget worksheet on our website that has some sticky notes for tips and tricks. So definitely check that out. It's just a PDF. It's really helpful. Track your monthly resources and expenses. Make sure that your budget and what you're actually spending align. Like I said, keep in mind that budgets are fluid and your financial priorities will probably change over time. And you also want to include a modest amount for a buffer, slash for an emergency savings account because life happens and we want to make sure that you've got what you can to lean on. Some tips for success, review your past spending habits. That will really help you shape your budget. Use apps to make it easy to track your spending. There's a bunch of free ones out there, some that you can pay, it's pay what you can or has a minimal monthly subscription. And then also schedule regular budget check-ins with yourself. Treat this like a doctor's appointment that you have to stick to. You can do it monthly, but we really recommend bi-weekly, just so that you're seeing it in, real time. This is a really big slide, so feel free to grab a screenshot for it. But it's basically some tips that we've heard from students about how to budget better and how to find a balance between, living and not going into massive amounts of debt. That includes things like carpooling, comparing health insurance plans before school begins, because you do have to have health insurance to be a CU Anschutz student. Attend student lunch and learns because they're free opportunities to not only learn something, but to get food while you're on campus. Also, really big thing, don't borrow for anything that someone else is already paying for. If you are on someone else's cell phone plan, unless you are paying them back, don't borrow for that. And money matters, so live like a student now before you get started. Um, Aim for your monthly expenses to be under that 2,800. If you're used to earning or spending more, make changes before school starts. Then you could use any remaining personal funds in this short time frame to pay off credit card debt or establish an emergency fund. I mentioned that health insurance is required. You're automatically going to be enrolled in the CU student plan, but if you have outside coverage, you can waive out of it each semester. You're still going to get a health budget in your cost of attendance. That can include, co-pays, prescriptions, stuff like that. If you are keeping the student health insurance, though, let our office know because the estimated cost that we give and the actual cost may not align, and we can adjust for that to adjust your cost of attendance. Make sure everything gets covered nicely. Also, think about moving expenses. Budget and save for those now because that's not going to be covered by financial aid. When you're not a student, you don't get student aid. That includes things like your security deposit, your moving truck, and your household supplies. Set your goals and be realistic about your circumstances. Try to avoid starting school with credit card debt and going into credit card debt throughout school, and have at least $1,000 on hand for an emergency fund. What about borrowing wisely? Some strategies to think about. Um, Reduce your loan amount for any external support you have. That includes scholarships, 529s, grandpa paying your first semester, whatever the case may be. Stick to your budget as best you can. Obviously, like I said, life happens. We know it does, but that's why you schedule those check-ins to make sure that your budget's aligning and you can adjust on the fly if you need to. After disbursement, when the funds go to the bursar's office, you have 45 days to return loan funds. That's if you over borrowed. You don't want to keep that money and just stash it away because you're going to have to pay it back. If you return it through our office instead of directly to the loan servicer, we can waive origination fees and interest on that returned amount. So if you borrowed $10,000 more than you needed, let us know. We can get that returned so that your overall principal decreases and we remove those fees that were for that $10,000. Some really important loan factors to keep in mind are subsidy, origination fees, interest rate, capitalization, which is when interest is added to the principal and it becomes a new principal, and then your repayment terms and conditions. That entrance counseling, the MPN, even if you do private loans, save that information somewhere so you can reference it later. This one I really want you to take a screenshot of or snap a picture of because we're not going to go into the nitty-gritty, but this is basically your checklist for what to do after this session. Organize your inbox and your calendar. Review your key documents. On our website, we have a welcome packet that goes in depth into a lot of this and that student budget worksheet. Calculate your living expense aid so that you know what your actual expenses look like versus what you will have funding from or for. Same with your total cost of attendance. Make sure you're looking at what it will realistically be for you because not everyone's cost of attendance will be the same. You have the same offer, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the same as your classmate. Finalize your aid amount in UCD Access. Set up your finances, including setting up your direct deposit. and then adjust as needed. You've got the 45-day window to return an over borrowing. Each semester, review your spending. Each month or bi-weekly, review your budget. And then if you have some leftover funds and you feel comfortable keeping it, you can reduce your next aid disbursement with that. So it's kind of up to you if you want to return it or not. It depends on how much it is. Just know interest starts at disbursement. Personal credit health is also a really important thing to keep in mind. Um, it shows financial responsibility, that you're doing payments on time, that you have low credit use and a long history. It shows lenders how big of a risk you are, which means better loan terms if you're applying for private loans or home loans or car loans in the future. It considers your financial habits, so your spending and your debt patterns, which reflects your budgeting and planning. And then it does also have a health and wellness impact. It, being aware of your financial health and your credit score and all of that will lead to less financial stress. It'll support mental well-being and promotes academic success. You want to manage your credit wisely. The stronger your credit, the stronger your peace of mind, the stronger your academics will be. You do get one free report from two different agencies every year at annualcreditreport.com. So you can get it twice a year. You know, once in like March, once in September, you got a whole year picture. It's not going to show your score, but it is going to show any credit inquiries or anything like that, and you can just make sure that everything looks correct. You should also aim to pay off any balances monthly that you can and apply for new credit sparingly. So, loans are obviously a big thing, but we also want to make sure that you're aware of scholarships because that is gift money you do not have to pay back, and we want you to get as much of that as possible. So we have different sources. Um, Through our office, the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office, or FASO, we look at need-based grants and scholarships that are based off of the FAFSA that you fill out. That information will be sent to you in your package along with loans at the beginning of the semester or beginning of the year. It is automatically accepted on your behalf, so you don't have to worry about anything. It's just letting you know, like, hey, you got Colorado Graduate Grant. Congratulations. Um, from your school or college, that's going to be awarded by your program. So they determine how much, who's eligible, what their requirements are, when the application dates are. Then they send our office information about the students and what they received. And then we're able to get that dispersed to students. So keep an eye on your email and all of those important things that your program is going to be communicating you with, because they'll let you know when those applications are available. And then there's also private sources, which we really encourage looking into. These are going to be any scholarship source that is not CU. Could be national, local, could be a professional organization. A colleague just shared with me that you could even look at like Target or Walmart in places that you shop. They have scholarships available. So look into those for sure. You definitely want to consider more than just your academic program. You want to consider your personal interests and hobbies, what makes you unique. I'm left-handed, for example, so if I was looking for a scholarship, I would start with left-handed scholarships. You know, it might only be $50, but that's $50 I don't have to pay back in the future that will not accrue interest. There's also some service programs that you repay with service. So in order to get the scholarship, you say, yes, I'm going to do X amount of years doing this job with this company or whatever the case may be. That has some benefits. It's really nice because the sponsor will pay tuition and fees and also provide a living expense stipend. So you really reduce your borrowing. That includes things like National Health Service Corps, Veteran Affairs, and Military Health Professional Scholarship Program. They really like long titles. We also have some search engines that are really beneficial for looking for those private scholarship sources. Big things to keep in mind. Don't ever pay for a scholarship. If you're paying for it, it's a scam. Please do not pay for anything. And look into those little nitty-gritty pieces of who you are, who your parents are, who your family is, like all of that stuff. There's going to be something out there. And some other things to keep in mind about scholarships. Similar to checking in with your budget, you want to schedule a regular time to do this, especially with school and everything else going on. You want to have that appointment Like I said, treat it like a doctor's appointment. Do not cancel on yourself. Have someone else review your application before submission. It's always nice to make sure you've got all the components, but also, whatever you wrote makes sense. It isn't full of typos or anything like that, just like with your paperwork for school. And then stay organized. Save copies of everything that you submit so that you don't have to redo it every single time. List key phrases that you searched with, whether they've worked or not. That way you're not accidentally searching the same thing 3 times that didn't work. And think big and broad and exhaustive about you. If you are coming up blank because it's uncomfortable to think about who you are as a person and what makes you unique and awesome, ask friends or family. Be like, hey, what is one thing that really stands out to you about me? And they'll be like, I got you. And then you can go search that. So rely on your friends and family, classmates, colleagues, anything like that. When in doubt, reach out. That can be said for literally anything about financial aid, but specifically about scholarships. Let us know of any scholarships that you are going to be receiving, especially if they're external. Keep in mind that all of your aid components, grants, scholarship, work study, loans, private loans, all of those funds can never exceed your cost of attendance. That's the tuition and fees and books and living and all of that. If that ever happens, our office is required to reduce your least desirable aid. Usually ends up being loans. So if you get a scholarship mid-semester, we'll take that fund and we'll put that to your loan servicer to reduce the principal of your loan. It doesn't mean you're going to get an additional $1,000 in the middle of the semester. um, and reduce the highest interest rate loan to maximize savings. We do that if you don't max out cost of attendance and you do get a scholarship mid-semester and you want to use that to reduce your loan, contact us, let us know. We can do that. We only automatically do that for students who are at cost of attendance. That's all I got. This is our contact information, where we're located, our website, which has our up-to-date advising hours and Zoom link. And we also have a feedback survey that I would love for everyone to complete if you don't mind. It should take like 2 minutes because this is a kind of new presentation, so we're still getting a feel for what we can do to jazz it up and make it better. But I'll now open it up to any questions that the Burton family might have.
Well, Audrey, I think you did a fabulous job at explaining everything in your presentation. So I'm not
You.
sure that we have any questions.
I can't think of any questions right now. Jane's a little further along. We have another child that's about to be a freshman at KU, so we're going through this at a whole another time. So I've had several questions, but I've had a lot of them answered over the last few weeks or months. So
Perfect. Yeah, like I said, when in doubt, reach out. We're here.
Definitely. That's been my philosophy about everything already, as Jennifer knows.
Cool. Well, I will recording. Okay, we're good.
I'm kidding. Just for the students who are watching this on their own time, is I want to reiterate what Audrey said about scholarships. I think it can be a little overwhelming to search around and like pick parts of your identity to focus on. I swear I'm not making this up. An hour and a half ago, I had a student stop by and they said, "Oh, I wish there were scholarships for students who were away from college for a long time and they're coming back, especially female students." I was like, I have this flyer on my office or on my desk that has all these scholarships for people just like you. And I know that's like rainbows and unicorn kind of a moment, but like that happens. And I told her, it's like, if you spend 2 hours filling out a scholarship application and you get $500, if somebody said, "I'll give you $250 an hour to apply for a scholarship," you do it, right? So please take time. And it is something you have to calendar, because once you start school, it's going to come at you fast. So, maybe make an appointment once a month to go look for scholarships for the next year or for spring, or just keep it as kind of like a standing appointment with yourself to earn money on the fly through scholarships. So that's one. And then, another thing I want to follow up with is working. So one of the big, there are a lot of reasons that students can struggle in grad school. and professional school. But I think money is one of the biggest ones, and it's a non-academic issue, right? It's like it's not whether you're smart enough, you work hard enough. It's I need money to eat and pay my rent. And that's, Maslow's hierarchy. Let's go to the bottom here. Like that's a foundation of the hierarchy is food, shelter, and your safety, right? So if you have to work this fall, that's okay. No problem. What we want to do is back off your classes a little bit because this curriculum is really meant for students who do not work the way it's, and we'll talk about this in orientation, but this is twice you're going to hear it. Ha. So if you do have to work, totally okay. We're going to support you. But what you want to do is back off your classes a little bit so you can still be successful and have the time to do so. Okay. Super important in the first year. And then, two other things, and I'll shut up because I know this isn't my presentation. Audrey, I get this question sometimes. So we have students in our program who've been working full-time as like professionals for the past year or two. So when they fill out FAFSA, it's going to be based on having like a really good income. What happens with students like that? Because when they start here, they're going to have zero or greatly reduced income. How does FAFSA account for that?
So FAFSA doesn't by itself. However, students can reach out to our office to talk about the possibility of doing a reconsideration of income. I will be completely candid, it is not usually that beneficial for students in graduate programs because it is looking at grants. So Colorado graduate grant, awesome for our Colorado residents. For non-residents, there's not really any federal grants out there for graduate programs. But
Great.
contact us, let us know. We'll gather some information. We'll do a simulation, see if it's worth pursuing. If it is, we will let the student know how to proceed. So I like being candid because for graduate school, like it's really looking at Pell eligibility and that's for undergrads. It's not going to do anything for grads.
Because does a Colorado grad loan, is that based on need or is it kind of first come first? Okay, it's based on need.
So it's based on need. It's first come, first serve. It also requires students to be in a minimum of 4 credit hours.
Okay.
Perfect.
So thank you.
But reach out to us. Literally any questions that pop up, anything weird, any one-off, just please contact us. Let us know. We would rather give you a no and here's why than you to miss out on something that you could receive or benefit from or even just get an answer to.
Yeah. Thank you for answering that because I know that's a common situation for all of our students. And then the last thing I want to pipe in is financial aid. Like I've been here for quite a while at this university, and the financial aid office is just like really humming and doing awesome work. And I was talking to Audrey before about their Zoom drop-in hours. It's like sometimes you can spend 3 minutes with somebody on Zoom and have your questions answered and move on. And so if you need a link, just shoot me an email and I can send you a link. But on their website, they have email, phone, and Zoom hours posted, and they're just amazing at just handling. Sometimes it's just one little question and it's a barrier, and that barrier keeps you from moving on. So reach out to them with your questions because they're super helpful and knowledgeable, and it's awesome to have such great colleagues on campus doing great work. So
thank you for that. I'm going to send that part of the recording to my boss.
Especially Audrey.
I do want to circle back to what you were saying about scholarships. Our office does not help students apply for scholarships or search through those search engines or anything like that. I did recommend to a student today, try your local public library because librarians can definitely help with that kind of stuff. And that will also, for my brain, having to go somewhere to do something makes the appointment with myself seem a lot more legitimate, and I'm less likely to procrastinate by watching Netflix. So if you schedule a time to go to the library, get help from a librarian, it's also supporting public libraries, so I'm a huge proponent of that. But that's a good opportunity to go get some help with that as well.
I love that. And do it now because once you start grad school, reading for pleasure goes away. So,
Exactly.
Golden moment.
Exactly. Awesome. All right.
Awesome.
Any other questions or comments?
I think that's it. I always tell students, a lot of times students will come to me for financial aid questions, and I basically go, stop talking, go talk to somebody in financial aid, mostly because they're experts, and having somebody who's an expert with financial aid is really important. So I'm happy to help, but I am going to send you directly to financial aid because they know all the ins and outs. They know how many credits you need to enroll to be a full-time student. They know how many credits you need, or if summer's coming and like, how do I get my aid for summer? They can talk to you about that. Because as Audrey mentioned, you're set up for fall and spring, but summer is an extra step. So just make sure you reach out because they're here to help you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, we do have another survey. Jennifer, I'll go ahead and send it to you via email. It's basically, we're trying to gather information about how students like to meet with financial aid and how to get our services, because we want to meet students where they're at as best we can. So I'll send that out. If you could share it with the link of this recording, that would be fantastic. Anyone who watches this, feel free to share it with your friends as well. But yeah, it would just be kind of nice to get some additional information, especially from students who might be continuing with us.
What about panic attacks at 2 a.m.? Are you guys going to be available for I'm
I'm
kidding.
sure that there's another resource for that. We are not equipped for that, unfortunately.
When you send out a request for feedback, be careful because
Yeah, totally
I'm
fair.
kidding. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. And again, students, I think we've reiterated this about 100 times, but please reach out to Financial Aid if you have questions. They're here to help, and they're very good at it. So yeah, so thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You all have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.